next couple hours, finally comes in, sits down. She's like, all right, here's the story. She said, when I first met you, I was going to get out of nursing. I had a very good friend of mine die. I was in a really dark place. I talked to my family. I was going to quit nursing and I was going to go to work for Amazon. And she said, then I met you and I see what you go through. My medication, I have a really bad reaction. And she said, you have these terrible reactions, but you come back every single time. You just never quit. And she said, then I went back in your file and read everything that's happened to you during this cancer journey. And she said, when I finished reading your story, I knew I was where I was supposed to be.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. He goes, wow.
Yeah, I forgot. I should have did a compiled bio here. That's not a bad thing though. So
this means I'm old. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Just a lot of experience.
So today we have Terry Tucker here, which Terry, I think, and I connected. Boy, it must have been June or July of last year.
A while ago.
And there's been days I feel like we'd always play this game of tag where I'd message you. Then by the time you responded, your message got lost and I forgot to respond. And then
I messaged you and then it was like, oh shoot, we're so busy. We did not forget about you. And I'm like, we need to make a date and I need to put it in my calendar and we have to do it.
And we have. So.
Yes. I'm going to just read off a couple things about you, Terry, just because your background is quite amazing and your story of resilience as well. I listened to a couple shorts of yours on some other content and I really enjoyed it and your positive outlook because as we know, this world needs more of that. So, he's got a lot of experience in a lot of different areas. At one point, he was the program development manager for the Riverside Methodist Hospital. He worked as a police officer. He was at one point in time he was a police sergeant for the Cincinnati Police Department. Worked as a hostage negotiator, which of course I feel like when most people read your rap sheet, they're like, I want to hear about that.
Yeah, right.
All of it really is impressive, and and he was also the head varsity girls basketball coach at one point in time of is it Emory? Is that pronounced correctly? Yep. The Emily Weiner School, and where's that located? Okay, cool, awesome. You worked as a consultant, and you're a speaker, and you're an author, and you've been on a couple podcasts, just a couple, right?
Yeah, a few hundred maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, but it was never. I never started. There's no number. I didn't expect. I mean, I was talking to my wife the other day about my first podcast that literally I had started a speaking business just as COVID hit it and everything shut down, whether it was virtual or in person. And a friend of mine reached out and said, hey, would you like to be a guest on my podcast? And I said, sure. What's a podcast? I mean, literally, I had no idea, and he explained it to me. And I said, okay, sure, I'll try it. Matt, Monica, I was horrible. I provided no value. I had Post-it notes all around the camera. He would ask me a question. I'd lean in and read one of the Post-it notes. I mean, I provided no value to the audience at all. But then I thought, the first time I ever drove a car, I wasn't any good at it. The first time I cooked a meal, I think I burned the water. First time I studied algebra, I wasn't any good at it.
Right.
But I liked it. And so I wanted to be good at it. And so I listened to all my podcasts. Can I get better stories? Can I have more concise stories? How many times do I say hum or those filler words?
I'm so bad at that.
And that's just led to almost 700 podcasts now that I've been on.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Wow. Like when I think of 700, I'm like, how's that like even possible? Yep. That's crazy.
You gain so much value out of talking to people though, whether you're on the receiving end or not. And you learn how to talk to people. I mean, I imagine before you started the 700 podcast journey, I bet you were a whole lot to talk to outside of the podcast. You were a whole lot different as well.
Yeah. I mean, unfortunately, I've been battling cancer for 13 years. So traveling is hard for me. And podcasting is a way for me to meet people all around the world. And I've done podcasts in Africa and India and in Australia and China, New Mexico, in
Yeah.
the United States, Mexico, in Latin America, all kinds, Canada, all
Yeah.
kinds of places, and have yet to have a bad experience. I've
Yeah.
met so
Yep.
many really neat people, and
Aw.
I've really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you learn so much, and it's so like such a blessing, and it's so fun
Yeah.
to meet so many different people with like, so many
Yes,
different backgrounds.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's a way for me to travel without having to leave the confines of my
Right.
home. So
Yeah.
I want to ask you, because I just in our short conversation we had last time, definitely connected with you pretty much immediately. And I just wanted you to tell just a little bit about yourself and I guess how you specifically feel like the best way to add value to the world is and how adversity is able to help you do that.
yeah, so I grew up on the south side of Chicago. I am the oldest of three boys. You can't tell this from looking at me or from my voice, but I'm 6'8" tall,
Oh
and
wow.
actually went
Yep.
to college on a basketball scholarship, despite having three knee surgeries in high school. I've got
Mm.
another brother who's 6'7" who pitched for the University of Notre Dame's baseball team. And then
Yep.
my other brother's 6'6", and he was drafted by the Cleveland Cavaliers in the National Basketball Association. And then my dad was 6'5". So we used to joke that if you sat behind our family in church growing up, not a prayer chance you were going to see anything that was going on, in front of the
Yep.
church. But our 5'8" mother, was the boss. Didn't matter how
Yep.
big, tall, strong we were, whatever mom said, that's the
Mhm.
way it went. So
Yeah.
after college, I graduated from college, first person in my family to do that. And I got my first job in the corporate headquarters of Wendy's International, the hamburger chain, in their marketing. That was the
Cool.
good news. Unfortunately, the bad news was I ended up living with my parents for the next 3.5 years as I helped my mother care for my father and my grandmother, who were both dying of different forms of
Mhm.
cancer.
Oh yeah.
And so after Wendy's, and Matt, you already mentioned this, I actually went to work for the hospital that cared for my father and my
Mhm.
grandmother. And then at 37, made that major pivot in my life and became a police officer and was a SWAT hostage
You
negotiator.
went into law enforcement at 37. I'm
Yeah.
37.
I took
Okay.
a whole lot more Tylenol in the police academy than everybody else did. I'll tell you that.
Good for you. No, that's incredible, man. That's
What made you want to do that?
yeah.
Yeah, so there is kind of a backstory. So my paternal grandfather was a Chicago police officer from 1924 to 1954. And in 1933, he was shot in the line of duty with his own gun. It was not a serious injury. He was shot in the ankle. But my dad, who was an infant at the time, always remembered the stories that his mom, my grandmother, told of that knock on the door of Mrs. Tucker, grab your son, come with us. Your husband's been shot. And so when I expressed an interest in sort of following in my grandfather's footsteps, my dad was absolutely not. You're going to
Yeah.
college. You're going to major in
Right.
business. You're going to get out, get a great job, get married, have 2.4 kids, and live happily ever after.
Mhm.
But that's the life my father wanted me to lead. That's not the life I felt I was supposed to lead. And so I had a choice when I graduated from college. My dad was dying of cancer. I could have said, "Hey, Dad, I know you're dying. Sorry. I'm going to go do my own thing, blaze my own trail." Or out of love and respect for you, I will do what you want me to do. And so understanding that backstory, my first two jobs were in business, so to speak. And
Mhm.
I sort of joke, I did what every good son did. I waited till my father passed away and then I followed my own dreams. And I'll be honest with you, actually never letting that dream die is one of the things that I'm most proud of in my life.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
I was making good money. I could have been like, you know what? I'm fine. This is an 8 to 5 job. I'm making decent money, but
You're content.
Yeah.
Right.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I gave all that up with
Mm.
certainly the support of my wife and our young daughter at the time to say, look, this is what I'm supposed to do. I need to go do this.
Yeah. How'd you like working as so what year was that you started working in law enforcement?
1997.
Okay. So I like to ask this question because I think I told you I worked for a village police department for a couple of years, but that was in 2011. I remember my chief at that point in time telling me how much better the job was and how much different it was 20 years prior to that. So, and I imagine, so that's not quite 20 years, but things were a lot different in 97 being a police officer and the support and the society as a whole, their view towards law enforcement were very different back then. I think a lot more supportive that I think we're transitioning into, I believe the media likes to push, I think a different, I guess, persona of the, how society really is towards law enforcement, but I think
Right.
things are getting better. And, but anyway, sorry. I love love to hear you talk about how things were then.
No, absolutely. And it's interesting because nobody remembers this. So in 2001, we had 9/11, and everybody remembers 9/11. But prior to that, in Cincinnati, we had actually one of my classmates um, basically chase a guy with 14 misdemeanor warrants down an alley at 3 o'clock in the morning. Said the guy put his hand in his waistband. My classmate shot and killed him. It was a white officer killing a black young man. And
Yeah.
Cincinnati went crazy. They burned the
Uh,
city down. Nobody remembers that. But I mean, I worked 2 weeks straight, never didn't give us a break of 12-hour days. And
wow.
it was all riot gear. They were burning buildings, they were burning dumpsters, and the fire department's like, hey, if
Wow.
we don't have a police escort, we're not going. If it burns down, it
Wow.
burns down. That's the way it is. But nobody remembers that. And so that was really kind of the start of, you know, police killing minorities and things like that, and everybody going
Okay.
crazy and burning cities
Yeah.
down and that. So it was just starting at that time to sort of change to, we hate you because, you know, you're all racist. Like,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
I mean, my partner and I, she was white. I was obviously white. We patrolled an entirely black neighborhood for almost 4.5 years in uniform in a marked car, led our relief in everything: felony arrests, misdemeanor arrests, guns recovered, dope recovered, wanted people, parkers, movers, whatever.
Yeah.
Never got complained on because
Yeah.
we treated people with respect. I mean,
Right.
you
Yeah.
know, I'm 6'8", 230 pounds. You want to go toe to toe with me? You're probably going to lose. But we don't want to do that. That's not something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not the first thing you go to. You
Yeah.
treat people with dignity and respect until they decide
Love it.
they don't want to do it.
Exactly.
So
Yeah. And I think the vast majority of cops, in my experience, are decent people. And I
Yeah.
always say, and I use the term shitbag sometimes, but there's shitbags in every profession. It's not siloed, but guess what? There's shitbags in every race. There's shitbags in every gender. It's just some people are good, some people are bad.
But also the media likes to show you when bad things happen. They don't very rarely does the media ever show you when, law enforcement does something good or like the right thing, which, 9 times out of 10, that's like what's going on almost every day. And when the bad thing or this horrific thing happens,
Yeah.
it plaster all over every single thing on social media and the
Yep.
TV and make that divide.
I real quick, I'm not trying to get cut off on a tangent here that's not related, but I just wanted to share with you. We actually recorded a podcast 2 weeks ago at the chief of Boonville Police Department, my old police department.
I
He
saw
just
that.
got sworn in. Oh, you did see that? Okay.
Aw.
So, and I haven't edited it yet. That's gonna come out. You saw my post though on it. That was such an incredible experience. I didn't really know Dave Olney, other than talking to him a little bit on LinkedIn.
Mhm.
I just saw him like, holy cow, he was just sworn into my old police department. So I reached out and became one of like the just most decent people I've ever spoken to.
Yeah.
It's great conversation. And it's Terry, like this crazy adventure that, as I think I told you over the phone, we're going through a lot, but it's like, it's led to the most beautiful relationships with people I never otherwise would have talked to.
Yeah.
I just wanted to share that because I mentioned the police department that's yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, I was gonna say no. I was gonna let you carry on and continue talking about what you were talking about.
Yeah, I mean, so after law enforcement, I started a school security consulting business. I coached girls high school basketball, but in 2012, I was diagnosed with this rare, supposedly terminal, although it's been 13 years now. It's probably switched from terminal to chronic form of cancer.
Good
And
for you though.
and that's really, I had my foot amputated in 2018. I had my leg amputated in 2020. I still have tumors
Yep.
in my lungs that I'm treated for every 6 weeks. And it's what do you do? I mean, if you look at my resume, so much of my life has been doing physical things, and I
Yeah.
enjoy the physicality
Right.
of that. And
Yeah.
now I'm minus a leg and I'm in a wheelchair. So
Yeah.
how do you balance those? And I think when you can't do what you're good at, you do what's important. And in all honesty, I really think
Yeah.
I'm doing what's important. I think
Yeah.
whatever time I have left, like I said, in 2012, I was told I'd be dead in 2 years. I thought, okay,
Wow.
you gave me a death sentence. How can I turn that death sentence into a life sentence? And that's really what I've been
Right.
trying to do for the last almost 13 years now.
That's incredible. You give me a cold
I
chills.
know. Well, it's just like you have this purpose in life where you are this motivational speaker and you want to help people and you're doing that and you're able to do that.
And your message is going to be out there forever. And I love it. And
Yeah.
I know everybody else that listens to you talk, they appreciate you. And
Oh my gosh, yeah.
people need to hear that because how easy I say it's a light switch decision.
Yeah.
Like how easy would it be for you to go the other route and be stuck in sorrow and depression? And I'm,
Yeah.
and I'm sure
Yeah.
we all have hard days and, I could make those choices too. And,
Yeah. So how do you get that motivation for yourself to keep, getting out of bed every day and doing what you're doing every
Yeah.
single day?
Yeah, I don't want your audience to think or either one of you to think that, I don't have bad days. I mean, you're looking at me now, there's no S on my chest. I do not have a cape and fly around with magical powers. I get, especially when I'm treated. The
Yeah.
medicine really kind of racks my body. I feel down. I feel depressed. I cry. I do all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But it's a choice whether or not you want to stay there or not. And I talk a lot about what I call my 3 F's, which have gotten me through my life and certainly these last 13 years. And that's and they're in order: faith, family, and friends. I have a very strong belief in God.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like I said, should have been dead. I'm not. I feel God now is using me
Yeah.
to show other people his power, his grace, his love, his mercy, his healing.
Yep.
And then my family. And it's my wife and daughter. And I'll give you kind of a funny story. After I had my leg amputated and I found out these tumors in my lungs, my doctor wanted to put me on chemotherapy. And I looked at him and I said, is it going to save my life? He said, no, probably not, but it might buy you some more time. And I said, if the outcome's going to be the same, I would rather not go through that regimen. I said, but I'll go home and talk to my family. And it's a funny story, but it really did happen this way. So I go home and start telling my wife and daughter what the doctor wants to do. And my daughter's like, I would need a family meeting. Like, family meeting, there's 3 of us. It's not like we got a board here or something like that. So we sit around the kitchen table and individually talk about how we all feel about me having chemotherapy. And then when we're done,
How old's your daughter
how old was she
at this point?
She's probably 19.
Okay. Okay.
Somewhere
Sorry, I
in
just
that.
wanted to get a visual here.
Yeah.
And so, then it's like, she's like, okay, let's take a vote. How many people want dad to have chemotherapy? And my wife and daughter raised their hand. I'm like, wait a minute. Am I getting outvoted for something I don't want to do? But I remembered when I was back in the police academy, our defensive tactics instructor used to have us bring a photograph of the people we loved the most to class. And as we were learning different techniques to defend ourselves, we were to look at that photograph because he reasoned you will fight harder for the people you love than you will fight for yourself. So I took chemotherapy, not because I wanted to, but because my wife and daughter insisted that I do. And in hindsight, it was the bridge that got me to this clinical trial drug that I've been on for the last over 4 years now.
Wow. That like gives me goosebumps.
Wow.
That's like,
Yeah.
that's so crazy.
That's awesome. It's amazing how our kids and family can steer us in the right direction sometimes. And
Yeah.
I married up. My wife married down. Absolutely. I mean, they're up here. I'm kind of down here. My wife and daughter. So
Yeah.
I'm very lucky.
Do you know what, Terry? It's funny because I think everything happens. I think you and I and Monica, and I say this now, I feel like all the time, we're exactly where we are, exactly where we're meant to be at the right time.
Yeah.
And if I talked to you in the summer of last year, I would have talked very differently about faith and stuff, just because I was faithful at that point. I've been going to church for a while now, but I've been more comfortable talking about it. And I try not to leave it out, not to push faith upon anybody, but to say what has worked for me and my family.
Yeah.
And because I think it took 18 episodes before I even mentioned faith, because we initially, when we started this, we said no politics, no religion. And it wasn't because we don't care about those things at all. It was just we thought maybe that's the right way to do this. But then it clicked one day. I'm like, I think we should talk about the things that have helped us. That's kind of what we're trying to do.
Not pushing it, but just kind of throwing it out there.
Yeah.
Just an idea.
Yeah.
It's something, it's important to me. Like you, I don't push it on anybody. I don't say, hey, you got to believe the way I do, or you've got to, do what I do. I don't say that at all. I'm just saying this is how I feel. And,
Mhm.
you know, I told you that, you know, the initial story after found out I had my leg amputated, I had these tumors in my lungs. My doctor showed me my CAT scan. And I don't know I have no medical background. I don't know how to read a CAT
Right.
scan, but you could kind of look at it and be like, oh, well, that sure doesn't look like it belongs there. You know, I had
Yeah.
these
Yeah.
big tumors in my lungs. I had fluid
Mhm.
over on the pleural spaces. And I remember looking at my doctor and saying, how was I alive? And I
Yeah.
remember until the day I die, I'll never forget this. He put his head down, he shook his head no, and then he looked up at me and he said, I don't know because you shouldn't have been, which
Hmm.
said to me that God's not done with me yet. You know, when I die,
Yeah.
where I
Yeah.
die, how I die, way above
Mhm.
my pay grade. Don't spend a
Yeah.
lot of time worrying about the dying. Spend much more time concentrating on the living.
Mhm.
Yes. Yeah.
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 Wow.
And if everyone could do that, and I think regardless of where you are in your life, regardless of how bad your life is, whatever you're going through, I think if people made that conscious decision to do that, to just no longer focus on the, being the victim or of your circumstances and
If
uh,
people actually could feel what it feels like to not play the victim and dwell in your own sorrow and depression, if people really could feel deep all the goodness it feels to grow and learn from your experiences and maybe take advice, if this isn't working, try this, and feeling yourself like leveling up, it's better than any, drug or alcohol out there that you might substitute your, coping skills with.
yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I always say you need to find meaning in your misery, or you need to find the message in your misery. There's a reason we go through these things. And
yeah,
so many
Mhm.
people are just like, oh, feel sorry for me and wallow in
Right.
it. I'm just not one of those people. Like, don't get me wrong, I have bad days, and
Yep.
we've talked about, but at the same time, it's a choice. It's a choice to
yeah,
act that way, or it's a choice to
Mhm.
say, yeah, this sucks, but I'm going to have to embrace the suck. I don't like
yeah.
Yep.
this. I don't like these cards that I've been dealt, but I'm going to have to play them to the best of my ability.
Mhm.
I think that I've heard so many people talk like this. We've had a guy from church. His wife passed away. He was on our podcast recently, and he said something to me that just it's something that I felt, but differently until I really heard him say it. Whereas the adversity that you go through, the more tragic it is, the more opportunity it can be beautiful, and it can spread more light and positivity out of it. And like in like his circumstance, I I I think that it is. I'm trying to think of how to say this.
Okay.
I'll use myself for an example. I've been through a lot in the last 2 years, and it broke me. And I've had days where I have been so emotional that I have a hard time breathing, and I'm okay with that. I'm also okay with the fact that my life has gotten better since learning how to manage that stress and anxiety and fears of those things that are outside of your control. It has helped me, I guess, love more and appreciate more. I'm more grateful than I ever would have been. And I imagine, and I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, I imagine you're more grateful now for every day you're alive than you ever have been. It's because none of us know. Every day is temporary.
Yes, and I mean, and I'll just give you two quick things that I've learned through almost 13 years of cancer. Number one, I don't think you truly know yourself until you've been tested by some form of adversity in your life. It doesn't have to be
Yes.
cancer, whatever it ends up being,
Yeah.
whatever bad things happen to you. And number
Mhm.
two, and this is going to sound kind of weird, I know, is that cancer's made me a better person. You know, I've been asked periodically on podcasts, if
Wow.
you could live your life again and not have cancer, would you do it? And in all honesty, I don't think I would. I mean,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
not who I am, but at the same time, it's made me the type of person I am today.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
I'll take this misery any day of the week because it's made me a much better human being.
Yeah. Yeah. I got a kid that told me a story. Sorry. You want to cut you off?
I was just gonna say, I feel the same exact way that you do. I feel like, my past, I've got this crazy past, and thinking about the pain through all of it was almost unbearable. But would I do it again to be where I'm at in my life right now? Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't have to like even think about it.
Yeah, my son told me he came home from school his last year or a little over a year ago. He came home from school after an IED victim. IEDs, improvised explosive device. People don't know they're buried roadside bombs generally. But anyway, the soldier came home from Afghanistan or Iraq, wherever he was from Middle East, severely injured, I wish I knew his name. I wanted to write them, but my son came home from school, and my son has an attention span like I did when I was 10, 11 years old.
Or still now.
Yeah, my attention span's pretty bad now, but he came home, is like, Dad, he's like, a combat vet came to my school today. And I'm like, oh yeah, and that's cool. And he's like, yeah, he talked in front of the auditorium, and he's like started talking about what this guy was talking about. And he's like, he's like, he asked us all who thinks that I wish I didn't get blown up. And like, of course, all the kids raised their hand. He's like, well, you're all wrong. He's like, if I never got blown up, I wouldn't be here helping kids right now. And then my son says to me, he's like, Dad, he's like, if I didn't go through what I've been through, I too wouldn't have had certain people in my life and it's just, it's cool that
he's so young and he understands that.
Yeah.
He realizes that.
But it's also that message that just like you're giving your message and I'm hopefully giving our message. It's like, there are certain people you don't know who's it affected. Like that guy affected my kid's life forever by his story, at least a little.
Yeah.
And that's what's really cool about doing this.
Yeah.
And that point you just made is so incredibly important, because I think people sit out there and think, what do I have to offer? What am I doing that is special that anybody would care about or that anybody would be interested in? And I'll tell you another story. This is a couple years ago. I had a nurse that was taking care of me. And when I first met her, she's about 25 years old, rather young, but it just started in nursing and was already a nurse, but learning how to do things on the unit where I'm treated. And about 6 months later, she was taking care of me by herself. And she came in and she said, Terry, I got a story I want to tell you, but I don't know how to tell it to you. I didn't know how to respond to that. What do you say when somebody says something like that? I said, well, I hope you decide you want to tell me, because it sounds like I would enjoy it. So she's in and out for the next couple hours, finally comes in, sits down, and she's like, all right, here's the story. She said, when I first met you, I was going to get out of nursing. I had a very good friend of mine die. I was in a really dark place. I talked to my family. I was going to quit nursing, and I was going to go to work for Amazon. And she said, then I met you, and I see what you go through. My medication, I have a really bad reaction. And she said, you have these terrible reactions, but you come back every single time. You just never quit. And she said, then I went back in your file and read everything that's happened to you during this cancer journey. And she said, when I finished reading your story, I knew I was where I was supposed to be. Now, if she would have never told me that story, I would have had no idea that my life had impacted her in such a positive way. I guarantee the people out there that are listening to us that think I don't have anything to offer, there are people you don't even know that are watching how you handle your adversity and would give almost everything they have just to walk 5 minutes in your shoes. So don't ever think that your story doesn't matter.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that is so darn true. And I've because I worry about judgment all the time. And I think I'm like, how many people that don't know my adversity or her adversity that just thinks like, man, you're gonna have a podcast about talking about going through hard times. Like,
what do you know about hard times?
Like I am so fortunate. I'm so blessed. Like I have, a beautiful family and like our relationship. I'm very fortunate for her and our dog Arrow. I'm always, my dog's my, part of my life.
Oh, she's everything. Yeah.
I take her running off leash and stuff with me all the time. But
can I just pause 1 second? I'm so sorry. I'm just gonna text my daughter. I think our dog is outside, and it's like a winter storm outside. And I saw the light. I'm just gonna say get Arrow from outside. I'm so sorry. She's gonna freeze to death. Okay, thank you. Sorry.
Is she definitely outside?
So return after the station identification.
Yeah, she's.
So yeah, we love our dog. Our dog's locked outside, and she's a giant icicle.
She's probably covered in snow right now. Well, the light from the garage kept going off. And then I heard something go against the front door. And I'm like, that never happens. She's definitely outside. Oh.
Sorry. I figured I might as well throw.
Say hi,
Bring the family in, right?
Yeah.
She's like, thank you for not leaving me outside. Okay, she's all, go. Get down.
Anyway.
Podcast with a woman in the Pacific Northwest. And she had these like French doors behind her. And they led outside. And it was kind of a misty day, as it is kind of in that part of the country. And we spent the whole podcast, like she would throw the ball, her dog would go get it, bring it back. She'd ask me a question. And I'd talk about it while she was playing catch with her dog out the back door. So.
I love it. That's so funny.
That's a new idea for me.
There
That
you
makes me
go.
happy. I love it.
Tara, I wanted to ask you, this is for my own personal interest though. As far as when you're doing hostage negotiation, first of all, how often are there situations like that? I imagine even with a big police department, hopefully it's only a couple times a year, if that. Really?
Oh, it happens. It happens a lot. And it's funny because those kind of call ups, I mean, we get called out. I mean, we would go along on, hitting the door on a drug raid and stuff like that as well. But those kind of call ups where you got a barricaded some person and stuff like that happens all the time. And
Yeah.
it happens more than you think. I mean, you're having a big fight with your mother, and all of a sudden, you just get so pissed off, you grab a gun, you barricade yourself in your bedroom. That happened
Yeah.
all the time. So
Wow.
yeah, I mean, and they come in threes. They would, if we'd have one, then we know we were going to have two more, and then there might be a lull, and then when they started again. So it was just weird how they came. But yeah, we had quite a few.
How did that fall into your lap?
Yeah, I was just gonna ask.
How did I do that?
Yeah.
So SWAT usually are the best trained officers with the best equipment.
Yep.
And I've always wanted to be part of the best. And so when there
Yep.
was an opening for the negotiators, I put in for it. You had to do and again, I was in my 40s. So now I got another run another mile and a half, and I got to do push ups and sit ups. And it's like, oh my gosh, this body's killing me here. And then, you meet with the psychologist, you take psychological exams, meet with the command staff, and finally meet with the team. And it was an all or nothing with the team. If one person said, hey, I've worked with Terry before, he's difficult to work with, I don't think this is a good fit, you didn't get on. And so I was lucky that everybody gave me the thumbs up. And that started about a 4.5 year trek through learning how to be a hostage negotiator.
That's so cool.
Do you have any stories that you're able to talk about any of those, or not really? Touch upon maybe?
I'll give you two. I'll give you one that's atypical, didn't usually happen this way.
Yep.
Usually when we start talking with somebody, they're very emotional, pacing back and forth, cussing at it, whatever. You're not talking about solutions at that time. You're just getting them to burn off a lot of that emotional energy. You're hours into the negotiation before the rational brain kicks in, and now you start talking about solutions. So this was atypical. So I was a sergeant in District 1 at the time. This happened in District 2. And I was in a marked car and uniform. So I got to the scene quickly, and I'm talking to the uniform guys. I'm like, what's the deal? He's drunk. He's barricaded himself in his house with a gun, and he's got his wife as a hostage. I'm like, okay. So do you have him on the phone? Yes, I do. Let me talk to him. So we start talking. And like I said, you rarely talk solutions early on. But I just had a gut feeling with this guy. And so I said to him, what would it take for you to come out? And there was this long pause. And he said, give me a beer. And I said, if I gave you a beer, do I have your word that you would let your wife go? You'd put the gun down and you'd come out with your hands up. He said, do I have your word that I could drink it? I said, you absolutely have my word you could drink it. I said, do I have your word? He said, yeah, I'll let her go. I said, okay. So I gave $5 to the uniform guy. I said, get out of the store, buy a beer. The tactical team put it on the front porch. I called him back. I said, your beer's on the front porch, but you don't get it until your wife comes out and you come out with your hands up, no gun. And he hit me again. Can I drink it? I said, you have my word that you can drink it. All of a sudden, the front door comes flying open. Here comes his wife with her hands up. Here he comes with his hands up. We handcuff him, let him drink his beer, and off to jail he went. So,
Like,
That's
so weird.
That's a pretty fair exchange.
Hey,
yeah,
it worked.
If you're gonna let your wife go for a beer, absolutely, I'm
Yeah.
making that deal.
You can have two.
I mean, we never gave something without getting something. People would be like, give me cigarettes. What are you going to give me?
Yeah.
Give me a magazine out of your gun. Give me bullets. So if you think about what we're trying to do, we're trying to develop a relationship with a person that more than likely is having the worst day of their life. If you're talking to me and your house is surrounded by the police, it's not a good day. And we develop that through empathy. And like I said, a lot of times we get on scene, no idea why we're here. So it would be help me understand what's going on or where you're coming from. Again, the important word there is understand. If you were a homicide suspect, that was another thing we would go out on, we'd get a tip somebody a homicide suspect was in an apartment. That'd be another thing we would go out on to try to get them to come out. And I wasn't going to agree that you killed those people, but understanding leads to trust, and trust leads me to a point, hopefully, where I can get you out safely. So that was one story. This was more typical. This probably started around dinner time. This person wanted to commit suicide, and so they slit their wrists. They didn't do a very good job of that, and that didn't work. And then they got the brilliant idea, and this doesn't work either, of turning the gas on in their stove and sticking their head in the oven. That didn't work either. So then they called a relative, and the relative was smart enough to call the police, and we get there. It's probably, I've been talking to this guy for several hours, probably 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning now. And he said, I really want to come out. He's got a gun now. And I said, yeah. I said, come out. And I said, and I'll come down to the scene and we'll talk man to man. We'll talk face to face. Like, yeah, I'd really like that. I said, don't hang up the phone, but put the gun down. When you go outside, and I explained to him what the tactical team would do, just so there were no surprises. Well, he hung up the phone, which is not uncommon. We're conditioned that when a phone call is over, we hang up the phone. About 30 seconds later, one of the tactical guys comes on the radio and says, we heard a gunshot. And I thought, you didn't. He did. Shot himself in the head. But what we think happened was it was a hesitation shot. He didn't shoot himself like this. He shot himself like, boom, and the gun went off, and the bullet went in underneath his skin, right at his temple, traveled around his skull, and came out the other side. Never penetrated his skull, never got to his
What
brain.
caliber was it? 22, maybe?
No, I don't think it was.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
It was, it was just it was incredibly bloody because it was a head wound, but
Yeah.
in terms of severity, really wasn't that big of a deal. And, we always hear about when it's your time, it's your time. But this is a perfect example of when it's not your time, there's nothing you can do to make it your time either.
Right.
And
Wow.
so he ended up going to the hospital and getting treated for his head injury and then getting treated for his psychology and mental health issues.
No, that's incredible.
Was there anything out of your entire career being an officer and then after that really meant something a lot or affected you in a really good positive way?
Yeah, I mean there were several things. I'll tell you one, and I'm sure you're at work. It's the end of the day. You just want to kind of pack up and get ready to go home. Well, my partner and I worked from 11 at night till 7 in the morning, and this was probably 6 o'clock. 6 o'clock in the morning. We're heading in to get our property tagged and our report signed and all that stuff. But they won't hold like domestic violence or shootings or anything like that because first shift starts at 7. So we're like, okay, so we get a domestic violence run. We get to the house and we're like, let's try to get done with this as quick as we can and get out. And so all of a sudden we get there and this 14-year-old kid comes stomping out of the house yelling and screaming. It's like, slow down, with mom and dad. So my partner takes the kid. I take mom and dad, like, what happened? Mom says, I got up in the middle of the night. I checked on my kids. He was gone. He had snuck out of the house. She said, I didn't know where he was. I didn't call the police. He's done this before. I went back to bed. When I got up in the morning, he was back in bed. I took my cloth slipper and I paddled him on his pajamas, on his butt. I said, that's all you hit him with? Yeah, that's all. Okay, fine. So my partner basically gets the same story, only my mom, domestic violence. That's a domestic violence charge. You can't do that. Yeah, it's called discipline. Kid, yes, you can.
Yeah.
So he's yelling and screaming, and finally he just goes huffing down the sidewalk. And mom's like, get back here. And like, no, just let him go. Let him go and cool off. We're giving the mom and dad some literature, some pamphlets about things that could help them with this situation. In the meantime, we're standing in the middle of the front yard. He comes back and he walks inside. His 6-year-old brother had come out and sat on the front porch. We're talking to mom and dad. All of a sudden, he comes out on the front porch carrying an AK-47.
The 6-year-old?
No, the 14-year-old.
Okay.
14-year-old. And his brother standing right behind his brother. And I see it first. So I yell gun and pull my weapon, and my partner pulls, throws the parents down on the ground. We got nowhere to go. There's no cover. There's no concealment. There's no nothing. And I know cops that would have shot him right on the spot. That's it. And we kept yelling at him to put the gun down, put the gun down. And he finally did. And it was like, we almost killed a
Wow.
14-year-old kid. And we would have been justified,
Wow.
but we probably killed his brother too, because it would have been more like spraying and praying kind of.
Oh my gosh.
So we go to court on the kid. And it turns out good academically, played quarterback on his, middle school football team, just a good kid all the way around. And I remember
Wow.
giving him my business card and saying, you don't know how close you came to dying that night.
Mm.
Yeah.
And don't ever make that mistake again. You get in that situation, you call me. You call
Yeah.
me and see if we can work something out. Don't ever put yourself in that situation again, because we
Oh
could have
my
killed
God.
you and been totally justified doing it. But again, 2 white cops killing a 14-year-old black kid? How would that have gone?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's so insane. I can't imagine all the stories that you have. I
Yeah.
can't.
We initially were reaching out to law enforcement just because there's so much negativity that, as we kind of touched on earlier, gets blasted on the internet. And we live right next to the Marcy Correctional Facility. I don't know if you saw that footage.
Mhm.
Everyone saw that footage, and it wasn't good. But I was just, when I first heard about it, again, that's like 20 miles away. I got friends that work in corrections all around this whole area, but I Googled it, and when I typed into Google, it first of all, it auto completed. So I'm like, it's already on the news.
Yeah.
Every single news outlet, is top of the news headlines. And I'm just like, why? Like, I understand that people need to be held accountable, and I get that, but it's like you get one cop that does something, or law enforcement or corrections that does something wrong, but you have so many people doing horrible criminal acts, yet they're given appearance tickets,
Yeah.
and we're closing prisons, and
Or there's zero accountability and you just kind of get away with stuff.
oh yeah, the court systems are just not charging people, and
Yeah.
it's like, it's almost like intentional chaos is. And I'm optimistic, though. I hope that the world's going to be changing for the better, and I don't care about politics. I don't have any right leaning, left leaning. I just think people need to be decent people to other
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, kindness. Exactly. And it used to be prison was a place where you went to get reformed. All prison is now, or all jail is now, is a place to learn to be a better criminal. Because you sit around with a bunch of other guys that steal cars or break into houses
Yeah.
or sell dope,
Yeah.
and they
yeah,
you talk. It's shop talk, and you come out
yeah,
of prison learning how to be a better criminal. So we've got to do better at keeping people out of prison. But then again, if you don't have the resources, if these
Mhm.
kids don't go to school, they don't have parents. I remember when I was in Cincinnati, we had a curfew. And I remember taking my partner and I grabbed this kid up. He was 13 years old. It was, a Wednesday night in October. So school was in session. And we're like, where do you live? So we would take them back home and we'd have to cite the parent. Well,
Mhm.
dad was in jail. Mom was, pardon my French, a crackhead. And he was being raised by a 75-year-old grandmother who went to
Mm.
bed at 8 o'clock at night.
yeah,
And, it was like carte blanche for him to, my grandma's in bed, I'm out of here.
yeah,
And
Yeah.
you look at a kid like that and you're like, that kid doesn't stand a chance
yeah.
of having
Mhm.
anything positive work out. No, doesn't have a positive role model or anything like
Yeah.
that. And that's,
And that we touch
you
upon
can't
that a
help
lot.
everybody.
There's so many grandparents that are raising kids nowadays, and it's like,
Yep.
the drugs in this country is, I lost my sister from a long battle with drugs, and there's so many parents out there that are going through, or kids that are going through it with their parents, and I know it's brutal.
Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts as to what could help that situation and maybe change the trend for the better, aside from common sense, I guess? But
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, one of the other jobs I don't usually talk about this very much is, and you're going to laugh. I mean, I'm 6'8". I was an undercover narcotics investigator. So I mean, I would buy dope. I would, watch
Mhm.
houses. I would, get probable cause and hit places with search warrants and stuff like that. And it's interesting. I did a podcast with 2 cadets at the Air Force Academy, and they were asking me, are there services, are there programs to help people through addiction and things like that? I said,
Mhm.
yes. I said, there are all kinds of programs and facilities that can help. I said, but in order for those to really stick, the person has to really, I believe, because I've seen so much of it, hit rock bottom. And my
yeah,
comment was,
Right.
there's a very fine line between rock bottom and dead.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
I honestly, I think and this is going to sound like the old guy preaching, but you know, things like this didn't happen when I was growing up. I used to always say
Yeah.
there were only two ways to die when I was a kid. One was natural causes, the other was talking back to your parents. And, you know,
Love it.
but it was true. I mean, when you
Mhm.
have strong role models, when you have strong moms and dads or grandparents or aunts and uncles or
Mhm.
whatever it is that set these kids like, no, this is not acceptable. It's culture. What's your culture like? I played basketball. I've been on teams with great cultures and teams with terrible cultures. Great culture teams are successful in life. It's the same thing with kids. If you don't, where are your kids? You've got to
Yeah.
be the parent. I'm sorry, you're
Yeah.
not going to that party because their mom and dad isn't home. And, I know what's going to go on at that party. And what do the kids do? They pound up the stairs, they slam the door, and they say, I hate you. And you say, you may, but I'm doing this because I love you. And that's
Mm-hmm.
my
Yeah.
job as a parent. It's not to be your
Yep.
friend. It's to be your
I was
parent.
just gonna say that.
Yeah.
There's so many parents that want to be the cool parent and, be their friend, let them do whatever they want, do it with them, who knows?
Yeah,
And that's
exactly. I mean,
it's
you're
uh,
setting an example. And I mean, I
mhm.
saw it as a cop, and it's not just, socioeconomically based. It's not just poor people. It's middle class
Right.
people. It's rich
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
It,
Yep.
it doesn't matter. But if you don't have, it starts in the home. And if you don't
Yeah.
have something foundational,
Yeah.
it's hard for those kids.
Yeah, and people or not people, but kids are going to mimic their parents. They want to be like them. So it's not, people are often will say, do as I say, don't do as I do. But that's not how life really is. Kids want to be like their mother, she's their queen. They love her, or their father, and they want to be like you. So be a good you.
Yeah.
It's
Exactly.
just
And,
as
and
simple
their
as like,
prefrontal cortexes, the things that cause us to make good and bad decisions aren't developed until we're 25 years old. So I
yeah,
mean, you can blame the kids
yep,
to a point, but
Yeah.
they don't have the mental acuity, a lot of them,
right,
to be making those decisions. Somebody's got to step in and make those
yeah,
Yep.
decisions for them.
exactly. And I think most parents don't really realize it, that they mature and can regulate their emotions or know what to do to react to certain situations until they're so much older than 15, 17, 19 years old. They
Exactly.
think, right. They think, oh, you're 19 or 20 years old. You should be mature and you're an adult now, make the right decisions, but it's not like that.
Yeah.
It's not.
Yeah.
It really isn't. And that's something we need to understand as adults that,
Yep.
yes, that was a bad decision. That was a poor decision. But sometimes
Mhm.
these kids don't have the mental ability to not do these goofy
Right.
things and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
that's where we come in. That's where we're supposed
Right.
to, you know, we're
Guide
the
them,
adults in the
help
room.
them. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I think a lot of it goes back to the accountability, and you got like the whole idea of like the no child left behind. It's like,
Oh, I can't.
it's really interesting how things are. I mean, it starts from the current generation right now. I think a lot of the issues that we have is because of the last 20 years of parenting and in the way that society is allowing kids to just be pushed through schools, or the participation trophy aspect of things, or if they go in the other direction, it's like all of your issues are everybody else's fault. None of
Mhm.
your issues belong to you. Anything that happens bad throughout your life is the reasons why you can act miserable and have that victim mentality.
Treat people badly because were
Yeah.
treated badly, or excuses for anything under the sun, like, where's your violin? It's just
Yeah.
like,
Right.
you
Well,
gotta, you have to
I
teach
just
your
finished
kids.
reading this book. You'd probably enjoy it. It's called The Coddling of the American Mind.
Mm,
And it
I
talks
probably like that.
about kind of why
Mm-hmm.
kids are the way they are today. And
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
when I was in kindergarten, there were certain things, certain benchmarks you had to hit.
Yep.
Can they socialize? Can they understand a sentence of 5 words and carry out what's being asked? Yeah, and things like that.
Yep.
When I was in kindergarten was about socialization.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So can you interact with other kids? Is there free play? Can you guys figure
Right.
out how to, I want that color. No, you want that color. How are we going to work that
Mm-hmm.
out? All those kind
Yeah.
of things. Today, and they gave a great statistic. So 70s and 80s, the acceptance rate at Yale, one of the better Ivy League schools, was 20%. In 2003, the acceptance rate at Yale was 11%. In 2017, the acceptance rate at Yale was 7%. So
Hmm.
Wow.
now kindergarten is, can your kid count to 100 by tens? Can they count to 20 by five? So we've gotten rid of the socialization, and now we're immediately starting 5-year-olds on math, on science, on English. They need to learn how to work together. They need to
Yes.
learn how to deal
Yeah.
with problems and come
Yep.
to some solution in groups and things like that. They don't learn those skills, and then what happens when they get to college? Everybody's screaming that I'm triggered, or you got to give me a support dog and all that kind of stuff. And I'm not going to get out of that road.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
that's the
Yeah.
reason why. I mean, I really enjoyed reading that book because it kind of gave me some information about why things
Yeah.
are the way they are.
I'll have to get that. And also, one thing that really frustrates me in schools is, even back in the day, a long time ago when I was in school, you get an assignment, it's due Friday. If you don't hand it in, it's a 0. You don't get, now you get 10 chances. Oh, you didn't do it right, return it, give it back, like 5 different times. And I'm
I
just like,
feel like they're setting up that person for disaster, for failure in the future, because when they get out in the real world,
Right.
that's not like that.
you get your job
Yeah.
and you can't do your job right. They're not gonna be like, oh, do it again, do it again, do it again, over and over and over again. They're probably gonna fire you.
Yeah.
It's just, it drives me crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Hmm.
Oh, I wanted to before we didn't ask Brett. We're supposed to ask him a question. So we're trying to remember on every
We're
podcast.
awful at this. We've forgotten like 10 million times.
We're trying to remember and to ask a question for our next guest, but I don't even know who our next guest would be after him, so I can't do it.
It could be like a generalized question.
Okay. Yeah.
Maybe.
So Terry, I don't know who the guest is going to be at this point, but I'll give you the opportunity to ask a random question of your choice for our next guest.
I guess I would say, who is the most important, or who's the most influential person in your life, and why?
Mm-hmm. Good one.
Okay, I like that.
Basic. I didn't have to think too hard on that one. So.
No, it was so strange. Not strange. It just made us feel like kind of funny. Was it Evan Carmichael that asked?
Yeah.
We're like, we had a recording with Evan Carmichael, and we asked him to ask our next guest a question, and he was,
Which it was Jordan Rich, who we recorded with in person yesterday.
yeah, normally they're questions like you asked, but then he's like, wanted us to ask Jordan Rich, what do you like the most about Matt and Monica? And we're just like, but
It was so awkward to ask that question.
you're like, all right, go on, please tell us.
And I think that's why he
And
did
question, right? Yeah.
It's definitely, because it's so awkward.
Yeah, so I very awkwardly asked Jordan that question yesterday. But
You know
Yeah,
what?
yeah,
Let me
so
change the
funny.
question, if you don't mind. Let me change the question.
Oh, do whatever you want.
yeah.
When was the last time you went deep with another human being?
Oh,
Okay.
nice.
Okay.
Got really vulnerable.
There's a
I like
psychology.
it. I like it.
I'm gonna use both of those from you, Terry.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, you should.
There's a psychology professor at the University of Chicago who does this experiment with his students. And the idea is you go out and you get on a bus, and in 3 questions, you're deep with somebody. So you get on a bus, sit down next to somebody. Hey, how you doing? Oh, I'm fine. How are you? Question 1. Question 2, and I'm just making this up. What do you do for a living? Oh, I'm a doctor. Okay. Question 3, have you always wanted to be a doctor? Now, it doesn't matter what the answer is. I mean, they could say, no, I
Right.
grew up on a farm and I wanted to be a veterinarian, but X, Y, and Z happened. Or, yeah, my mom was a doctor and she died of breast cancer at 40, and I'm honoring her memory by being, whatever they say, now you're deep with somebody because they're telling
Okay.
you their why they
Right.
do what they do. And we don't do
Oh, I
that.
like
Social
it.
media lets us stay up here.
Yeah.
I like that a lot.
And that makes me think too, like, I want to talk more about like deep about stuff, like what I feel about certain things. And it's like we do talk about, deep issues like on our podcast and stuff, but like to get really deep and maybe even start talking about like my past, which I haven't done yet. And we've been doing this for like 1.5 years now or so.
Yeah.
I really want to do that.
Yeah. That'd be cool.
Yeah. I like it. Good questions.
I want to give you the opportunity. Where can people find your book or any sort of your content or your social media or whatever, however you want to self-promote? By all means, I try to give people an opportunity to.
Sustainable Excellence. My book is available on Amazon. You can reach out to me, and I love hearing from people. I have a blog/website. It's called Motivational Check. So motivationalcheck.com will get you to me.
Awesome. I appreciate it.
I am so happy we finally got to talk with you.
Maybe someday we could do a round 2 in person or
Yes.
something within the next year or so.
Yep.
Because we plan on traveling.
Not hopefully.
Yeah.
We will do it in person soon.
That would be great. I mean, hey, we live in Denver, great city. You know, I mean, come on out, have fun. You know, you
I
can
would
go
love
skiing.
an excuse to go to Denver. I've never been to Denver, so
fun. That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Denver's
All
great.
right. Well, Terry, it was an honor. I appreciate
Thank you so much.
And I'm sorry it took so damn long.
Matt, Monica, I enjoyed this immensely. Good
Me
thing.
too.
It's okay. You know, all the good. It worked its way up, and I'm so glad we got the chance to do this.
Awesome.
I appreciate it, man, very much. Definitely stay in contact and
Definitely.
keep doing what you're doing, man. I appreciate it. Thank you.
You both too.
I'll see you.